And I'm here and I am doing my Alphabethon / July wrap up. So, anyone that knows that I did Alphabethon this time will know that instead of the usual rules of Alphabethon where you pick all books with one letter, we instead decided to do one book for every letter of the alphabet. And I thought that was a really big challenge. I decided to join in with it, regretted it the second I did, but I had a fun time. So, let's see how I did. I will tell you that I read a lot of books this month, but I won't tell you whether I managed to complete the entire alphabet, because I like to add a bit of mystery. So the format of this is I'm going to go from the letter A through to the letter Z, but because I read a lot of books, I'm going to be splitting this up into two parts. So I'm going to get halfway through the alphabet in this one, and then in my next one I'll do the other half. So, starting out with the letter A, I said I was going to be reading either A Court of Thorn and Roses or A Curse So Dark and Lonely. At the time of my TBR, we hadn't actually decided what I was going to read yet. But in the end, me and my friend decided to do A Court of Thorn and Roses. And I read it, and I really enjoyed it. This is a fantasy book based around a girl called Feyre who, whilst out hunting, kills a member of the Fae. So she is left with a choice. She can either die on the spot, or she can go to the court of the Higher Fae and live out the rest of her days there. And she makes the decision to go with I don't know what he is. Is he a lord? This guy. And this is actually a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I didn't know that. When I started reading it, I messaged Jade and was like, this is quite strange. I'm getting like Hunger Games / Cinderella vibes. And she was very confused about the fact that it was Cinderella in my head, not Beauty and the Beast. But I see where Beauty and the Beast came into it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And I'm very surprised because I don't really do fantasy. So 4-star rating from me is very, very good. And I'm really excited to carry on the series, which is not me. So I'm excited for it. Next, for the letter B, I said I was going to try and read Breakfast at Katsaurus, and I did it. I gave it a 4-star rating. I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed this book. Like, I thought I was going to enjoy it, but I didn't think I was going to enjoy it that much because some of the stories were in it that weren't ideal. I'd never read like an anthology short story collection before, so I didn't really know what to expect. There were some stories that I absolutely loved, some that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I enjoyed them all the same. So the series as a whole, the entire collection, got a 4-star rating, and I really enjoyed it, and it was great. For the letter C, what did I read? The letter C, I said I was going to read Clockwork Angel. Obviously, I did it. Everyone knows I was going to be reading this because I've been reading the entire series with Mel, and I did a vlog of my first reading experience of this book. So if you want to watch my vlog, go and check it out. It is spoiler filled though, so if you have not read this book, don't go check it out. This is basically about shadow hunters in the 1800s, I think, during the reign of Queen Victoria. That don't answer me, but I think it's the 1800s. And it's about shadow hunters in London, and they meet a girl called Tessa who can shapeshift, and no one really knows why. I really enjoyed this book. It left a few questions unanswered, but I'm going to assume that they get answered in later installments. So I loved it, and I love the rest of the Shadowhunter books so far. Obviously, this one had to get a 5-star rating. Yes. Okay, next, for the letter D. I said I was going to be reading Dead Heat by James Patterson. Obviously, I did it. It was written with James Patterson and Lee Stone, and I was so surprised by this book because it's so short. Typically, books that are quite short like this don't get the highest ratings from me because I feel as though when the thrillers especially, you just don't get a lot of story in it, and I love a bit of story. And this surprised me because not only did it get a lot of story in this, it got a lot of character development in this. This is about the Olympics in Rio, 2016 Rio Olympics. One of the athletes goes missing, and then he turns up at the opening ceremony of the Olympics. The police suddenly think, oh, he's back, case closed, no issue. And then he tries to kill the prime minister or the president of Rio. I don't really know whether it's prime minister or president over there, but he tries to kill them, and then there's a whole big storyline on, well, where did he go to and why has he come back and tried to kill people? and it was really interesting. And the amount of character development, the good storytelling, I just thought it was an excellent story. I gave this a 5-star rating. I felt as though it was a teeny tiny bit predictable, but I don't really know what else you could expect from a book so short, because they have very limited time to give you character development and stuff. So if there was a character in there and you're like, you've served no real purpose to the story, it kind of gives it away a bit that they're going to come into it a bit later on. And that's how I felt. But overall, really, really enjoyed it. So, next for the letter E. I feel as though I'm rushing, but I'm also really, really excited to get through this. For the letter E, I said I was going to read Everything by Nicola Yoon. And I read it. And I was so proud of myself. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 5-star rating. I will admit, though, that after some reflection, I kind of feel as though maybe it doesn't deserve a 5-star. But this one's difficult. This is a story about a girl called Maddie who is allergic to everything. She suffers with something called SCID, and don't try and make me pronounce the official terminology for what that means. I have no idea. That's a lot of words. But basically, the air outside the house can kill her, and she is confined to her house. Then she falls in love with her next door neighbour. As you do. But I really enjoyed this story. My issue was I'd watched the movie first, and it became one of my favourite movies for a long, long time, and I binge watched it all the time. I actually watched it quite recently, and then I read the book, and as much as I loved the book, I felt as though it was just exactly the same as the film. So that's why I feel as though it shouldn't have got a 5-star. But then I think, well, no, because that book is still really, really good. Like, you know that a book is a masterpiece when they don't really change anything in the adaptation. So it obviously deserves a 5-star. That's just my brain saying, you wasn't as amazed as you could have been. And then I'm like, well, that's because I'd already read the book, technically, just through watching it. You get where I'm going with it. Basically, I watched the movie, read the book. I thought, they're a bit too similar. I'm just being a bit stupid. 5-star rating all the way. Really enjoyed it. Shut up, Connor. Now, the next letter. What's the next letter in the alphabet? F. Okay, the next letter with F. I said I was going to read First Love by James Patterson. And yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't. But I did read Final Assignment by Linwood Barclay. Nearly got you. Yeah, this book, Final Assignment, was just a lot shorter than First Love. And I read the letter F actually quite recently because I didn't do these books in order. So I just kind of read them out of order. And I was getting towards the end and I just thought I need a shorter book. I read a lot of bigger books. I need a shorter book to just get through it rather than First Love. So I switched it out and I read Final Assignment. And I really enjoyed that. I thought it was good. What did I give it? I gave it a 4-star rating, which doesn't surprise me. I love Linwood Barclay's writing style. He kept everything that was uniquely Linwood Barclay in there. He got a good story and he got good character development. He had a big twist ending that I loved. My only issue, again, with it being a shorter book, which I kind of said with Dead Heat, it was just a little bit predictable. Like, I kind of guessed what was going on. The story basically follows 2 friends. One boy writes a story where a young lad murders his best friend with a baseball bat, and then the boy who wrote that, his best friend is found murdered with a baseball bat. And it's a kind of very similar to the story he wrote, and the police are inspecting that. I thought it was a really good story. It was only 70 pages long, and I think it was so good to actually get such a masterpiece out of that. My issue was just that it was predictable, which I kind of thought you can't expect anything less from a 70-page book. It was kind of obvious the way it was going to go. But there was no issue with it. So, 4-star rating. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Next. For the letter G, I said I was going to read Give Thank You a try, and I did it. I read it. It was precious. I loved this. It's just about teaching kids how to be polite. So it was nothing spectacular. But the artwork, I'm trying to show you the artwork, but I feel like everything's going to fall. The artwork in that is absolutely beautiful. But what I found out when I was reading, and I didn't know, is that every piece of artwork is from an entirely different illustrator. And I thought that was amazing because I didn't know that until I started reading it. So the fact that all of this was done by so many people and it was a full compilation of how many people got involved and actually drew pictures to fit with this story. And it really made it such a good book because it was kind of unexpected. And I love seeing all the different art styles, but they were so equally as beautiful, no matter how different they were. And I really enjoyed it. So I gave it a 4-star. Obviously, it didn't incite any huge emotion from me. And it was a children's book. So I wasn't going to be absolutely in love with it. I'll read it millions of times over. But it really shocked me. And I was amazed by it. So a 4-star rating, which is really, really good. Next, I said for the letter H, what did I say I was going to read? Oh, yeah. For the letter H, I said I was going to read The House Husband, which was also by James Patterson. I didn't do that. In the end, I switched it out. I will tell you why in the next video. But I switched it out for The Hostage. And this is a book about detective... Is he a detective? He's not really a detective, is he? John Roscoe, who used to be a detective, and he is now a head of security for this hotel franchise. And it's the hotel opening and the owner is murdered and the hotel is under siege, and it's quite interesting. It was a really good story. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star. I thought it was fine. My issue was the ending. It didn't really build in any way. Like, we just kind of found out who the culprit was and I was just like, oh, that wasn't exciting in any way. And that was my only issue with it. Kind of a big issue, but it was my only issue. But it was a good story. Gave it a 4-star. Next, for the letter I said I was going to read I Made a Mistake by Jane Corey. Didn't read that one either. Instead, I switched it out for a recent arc that I got called Idle Hands. And this was by Cassandra Windwalker. And I really, really like this book. This book basically follows a mother who has decided to leave her husband and take her children with her. But the family is followed by a presence. It is followed by someone who is known as Ella, who has also been known as the devil. And it's about making choices. It's about the devil plays a game. It's not this evil entity. The devil plays a game. The devil will give you choices and you decide which way your life goes. And I really love this story. I love the personification of the devil. I love the whole belief that you make a choice and it affects how your life goes. But either way, there is still someone who gave you that choice. You still have that force over you who, even though you're making the decision, it's not really your decision to make because someone gave you those choices. I kind of really loved that. I thought it was amazing. Definitely would recommend it. It was an ARC book, but it has actually come out. It came out the day after I finished reading it, which is why I switched it out because I really wanted to read it before it came out. I would recommend going and buying that. It's definitely really good. Oh, and I gave it 5 stars. So for the letter J, I said I was going to read Judge and Jury by James Patterson, and I read Judge and Jury by James Patterson. And who's it also by? Andrew Gross as well. This is a story about a woman who really doesn't want to be on the jury of a big mafia mob murder case, and she ends up being forced on it. Then the criminal who's up in court makes a very devastating move and it ruins the life of the jury and the agent in charge. And they make it their mission to bring him down. It was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. I gave it a 4.5 star rating. I was surprised by how much I liked it, but at the same time, I didn't really know what else to expect. I thought it was a great story. Just kind of wasn't perfect because there was some points where I was a bit like, I don't mind. But it was really, really good. So in the end, I gave this a 4.5 star rating. Overall, at this point, you're probably thinking, wow, you've had a good month. And you are correct. It will change eventually, don't worry. Okay, next for the letter K, I said I was going to read Keeper of the Bride by Tess Gerritsen. I read Keeper of the Bride by Tess Gerritsen. It was okay. I gave it a 4-star rating, so it was a good book, but I was very surprised to learn that this was a thriller romance book. Like, I didn't expect that, because I don't really like a romance in my thriller. I love a thriller. I love a dark book. And this was very much about a woman who, she's been left at the altar, but then the church explodes. And it's because there's a bomb there. And there was a whole mystery of, right, well, who's trying to kill her? She thinks it might have just been a random attack. Then someone tries to kill her on her way home. Then it goes crazy. It was really good. It was fun. It was lighthearted. I just didn't like the romance element of it. But I can't really blame the book for that because that was my mistake. I didn't research into it before I started reading it. But what I will say about it is that I didn't like how it ended because I felt as though it just lacked excitement for me. Like, there wasn't really any reason why she was the target apart from because she was. Like, there was a reason, but I just felt the reason was a bit crap, to be honest. I was a bit disappointed with it. So in the end it got a 4-star rating as opposed to a 5-star, which I think it could have got had that ending been better. Okay, next for L, I said I was going to read The Lovely Bones. I did start it, and I really didn't like it. I really, really hated it, and I don't know why. I think maybe I was just not in the mood to read a book at that point. But also I felt because I'd watched this film, I felt as though the film did it better because it got everything it needed to out there. It gave us all the information. And then the film was over. And that was the point. It got everything across, and that was it. This, I just felt as though it was going around in circles, repeating the same stuff, and I just thought, I don't care anymore. I really just don't. So in the end, I DNF'd this, sadly. I did make a decision, however, that even though I DNF'd the book and I could cross it off saying I had read it, I'd read a part of it, at the very least it's crossed off now, the letter, I didn't want to do that. So I read another book. I read Learning to Ride, which was a James Patterson book shot, but it wasn't by James Patterson, it is by Erin Knightley. And I hated this book so much. I hated it. This was a 2-star rating book. This is a book, I can't even tell you what it's about because I hated it that much. This is, oh God. This is about a girl, I think, from New York, and she moves to somewhere. She moves to somewhere with rodeos and cowboys and crap like that. And she meets this guy, she sleeps with him, he's a womanizer, he's just like, I just sleep with women for one night. And then he wakes up the next morning like, I can't just sleep with her for one night. I'm in love with her. Ugh. And I hated it. I just hated the absolute insta-love. I hated the cringiness, and this is the type of thing that would suit people who are die-hard romance fans. But the idea of reading a book about a woman that falls in love with a cowboy, and the cowboy puns and the rodeo stuff, and the even says on the back, the word honky-tonk is used. I don't know what a honky-tonk is, but I don't care. And it was the worst thing I've ever read. I mean, I gave it a 2-star rating. It could have been a 1. I feel as though I hated the book because it was a really cheap, tacky romance, and I don't like them, so I feel as though I couldn't have given it a 1-star rating, because even though I don't like it, if I was a big fan of romance books, maybe I would have, and it was just my own issue. So I gave it a 2-star, but it were bad. And then finally, for the letter M, I said I was going to read My Dark Vanessa. I started it, didn't get very far in, and I DNF'd that as well. I just struggled, to be honest. There's no, I didn't like it or anything like that. It's a very serious, sensitive book about grooming and child abuse and stuff like that. And I didn't like that topic as it was. I really struggled to read that type of topic anyway. But I had it via audiobook. And listening to it, so much worse than reading. So in the end, I just put it down. I said, look, I'm not interested. I can't do this, because Brooke was kind of reading it similar. I think she read it after me, but when Brooke was reading it, I said, look, I can't do it. I can't do it over audiobook. I don't even want to pick it up physically. I'm out. And I was really sad about that. And that was actually the first book I DNF'd because I think I started that book second. So, yeah, I DNF'd that one. But I did switch it out again because I wanted to. And I did The Mating Season, which is by Laurie Horowitz. It was a James Patterson book short. And this is about a bird nerd who is filming a documentary with someone, just a short, quick documentary. And he's a bit of a loser. She is a bird nerd. And they end up falling in love. I hate romance books. I think they're tacky. I think they are some of the worst things I have ever read in my life. This was actually alright. I didn't like it. I want to make that perfectly clear before Kira starts going in the comments saying, oh, Connor loves romance. Connor does not love romance. I did not like this book at all. But I liked it more than Learning to Ride. I felt as though it was more natural. I felt as though it was a teeny tiny bit insta-lovey because they were in love within a week. But it felt more natural than the Learning to Ride one. And it was quite interesting seeing their friendship grow and then it turn into a relationship. I liked that. But overall, I didn't love it. So I gave it a 3-star because I felt as though that was the least that deserved. And that is it. I did up to the letter M. So, you will see that I read a book for the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and M. That is the first 13 books. I read the first 13 books. And it looks like you'll have to tune in on Monday to see whether I did the final 13. But you can be very happy to know that I did the first 13. It was a struggle. They were mostly very good ratings. It was either 4 or 5-star ratings. There was definitely between 4 and 5-star ratings. Then there was a couple that were 2 and a 3. But overall, that was a really good reading month. And I'm really happy with it. And I'm very interested to see how many books you think I actually meant. And I'm very interested to see how many books you think I managed. So, if you've made it this far in the video, drop a comment down below and let me know how many books of the 26 you think I read. Let me know. And tune in on Monday to find out whether I actually completed Alphabethon or not. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you leave a comment because I really love it when people leave comments down below. So make sure you do. And I will see you on Monday for the rest of my wrap up.